like I was saying here, politics are a world of post-truth. Take every word a politician says literally, and you're going to have a bad time. So, yeah. In this world, we have lots of people that take politics super duper seriously. You know, as soon as President Trump came out and said, well, I want to build a wall, they came up in their head with this giant concrete slab, this medieval wall, you know, like the imagery. We let our imaginations take hold. You know, in politics, you know, there might be policy, right? But a lot of the rhetoric is like pie in the sky, like use your imagination kind of stuff. You know, like a lot of it's directionally accurate, like, you know, in general, where, you know, a presidential candidate or a gubernatorial candidate is going. But overall, a lot of what they say doesn't end up being actually, you know, fact-checkably true. Or it's inexact. It's not accurate. And that's post-truth. You know, they say what they need to say to get elected, and then once they're there, they use, you know, weasel words, and they use linguistic filters, and they use all these different things, propaganda, of course, to direct us around. And it doesn't need to conform to hard reality. It can go with our, you know, it can be feelings over facts. You know, Scott Adams talks about this a little bit. Of course, Real Coffee with Scott Adams on YouTube. He talks about this a bit, that we don't make decisions based on facts. We make them based on feelings, emotion. You know, the facts don't persuade. You can give people as many graphs or scientific articles as you want, but that doesn't tend to get them. It's more of an emotional connection. It's more of pacing them and helping them to understand from their existing perspective. You know, mirroring and so on and so forth. All the persuasion techniques. But these politicians, they don't tell the truth. You know, somebody said something about like a politician. I want to find a politician that tells the truth. And you know, you have Bernie Sanders. You have a couple of different folks out there that are relatively truth tellers. You know, it seems they believe what they're saying, but it doesn't mean that it's realistic. It doesn't mean that it's pragmatic. I don't know. I really don't know. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And let me tell you, people kept on saying, Jeff, he's pie in the sky. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand math. He doesn't understand economics. And I said, no. I'm emotionally attached to Bernie Sanders because I spent my entire 20s on the hard left. I was on the hard left. And Bernie Sanders said all the right things for me. And for Kyle Kulinski. So Kyle and I, well, if we live in a hard blue state, we went ahead and voted for, I think Kyle voted for Jill Stein. I know I did. When Bernie Sanders was cheated by the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and of course Donna Brazile giving the questions to Hillary Clinton at CNN, the debate. So, you know, I understand that, you know, Bernie Sanders at the time was saying a lot of great things. But again, post-truth world, big asks. Big asks. Donald Trump did the same thing. It's not any one side. It's both sides, of course. Always both sides. Everything we say here, it applies to both sides. Usually one or another more at different times. You know, identity politics, I'd say that at this moment in time, the Democrats are the party of identity politics. But in the terms of a post-truth realm politics, I do have a video. Politics is a post-truth realm where I talk about more of this. There are no politicians that can tell you the absolute truth, because I don't think that the public can take the real truth about the world. You know, being president, being in charge of wars, of making decisions that affect thousands, if not millions of lives, almost every single day. I mean, there's a lot that I think that if people knew, the morale of countries would drop I do believe that the people deserve to know. I believe in transparency. I believe in WikiLeaks. I believe in whistleblowers. I believe in Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, Julian Assange, Project Veritas, all those great new Google leaks from the behind the scenes of Google's social engineering and censorship. Excuse me. But in the end, I understand why the politicians have to, they're also negotiating things. They don't want to present themselves the wrong way to other world leaders, to other factions. So there's so many reasons why politicians lie. And if you take every word a politician says literally, well, you're going to have a bad time. And if you take all the fear-mongering, all the scare words, and all the things that politicians say so that you'll elect them and not the other person over there. You'll elect them and not the other person. Those things are the things you can ignore the most. Because both sides are saying things that are ridiculous. I don't want to try to mind read Ilhan Omar. I don't want to mind read Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib or any of these people, but they say, oh, they hate Jews, they hate Israel. That's President Trump fear-mongering. And of course, the people running around saying, Orange Man Hitler, Orange Man bad, Hitler. Okay, it's okay to be a dissenting voice about President Trump or anybody. But of course, the hysteria, the mass hysteria of Trump derangement syndrome, well, these people, they'll say almost anything is a warning sign for them. Almost anything. He says this the wrong way, if he uses the wrong word, all of a sudden we're headed for World War III. We're headed for Communist China or Soviet Russia. We're headed for some form of dystopia. Because the president tweeted something that you didn't like. It's all wild. People just take things way, way too literal. I say literalism is eating away at the fabric of our society. I really do. But it's tough, Sometimes it's important to take a fact-based approach and point at every little, go into semantics and pedantics and point at everything that makes the argument logical and solid and scientific. And then other times it's like, well, there's hyperbole here, hyperbole there. Politics is a post-truth realm because it is full of hyperbole. It's full of false promises. And frankly, taking it too seriously is how people are tearing apart their friendships. They're tearing apart their relationships. And they're giving themselves a form of depression because they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I do think that President Trump is likely to win 2020. And I think that people need to get used to that. They need to understand that it's a likelihood. It's a possibility, and it's a likelihood. And it's best, like I say with my cognitive dissonance workout routine, another video, check it out on my channel, both on BitChute and on YouTube. But you have to get, if you use the cognitive dissonance workout routine, you can get, your cognitive dissonance muscles worked out. You can get used to it. I like to prime myself before I have to deal with something that could be troublesome. So, say, for example, I said, well, President Trump, fight him all you will. Maybe he'll lose. Maybe he'll win. I think he'll win. Fight him if you want. But understand that there is a decent likelihood of him winning. So you don't want to be caught in this mindset where you're like, he has to lose, he has to lose, he has to lose. If he doesn't lose, I don't have an out. You need to get used to that possibility. Because I don't want to see any more pain. I want to see things get better after the election. I want to see people come back together. They were pulled apart by identity politics. I want to see them pulled back together. And I want them to talk. I want us to be able to associate with each other. I want us to be able to laugh with each other. And right now, 2019, we're in the throes of the political season, and people are just not as friendly. They're combative. They think everybody is out to get them. They don't understand if it's either the right or the left. It doesn't matter. Whatever. That's a false dichotomy. Whatever it might be. Anywhere in the political sphere, people are bringing politics into everything, and they're, not your average person. Like, I really don't think it's your average person. I think it's more about the internet culture, where they just need to make sure, like, well, before I talk to you, before I read this article, before I watch this show, what are the political beliefs? What's going on in the head? Regardless of what people state, what's going on in their head? It's just this constant state of like, oh, are they lying? She said she was a Democrat. Can I trust her? I mean, we're getting to this point where no one is trusting each other. People are starting to really believe, not too many people, but those that are part of the mass hysteria of, say, for example, Trump derangement syndrome, they are in this mindset where, and I'm going off of their words. I'm not trying to mind read here. I'm not trying to project. I'm going off of what I see, what I'm observing, and giving my analysis of what I am taking in for information. It does seem like a number of people in the past 3 years, people that they trusted before, that they knew, that had right think, that were good people, they're now seen as the enemy, the other. You voted Republican? How could you do that? Are you a racist? Are you, like all these terms, they lost all meaning. But it doesn't mean that people didn't get pulled apart when one person got called a sexist here, one person got called a pedophile or whatever it might be there. That's a pretty harsh one, actually. If you go and call somebody, hey, that's a good pro tip. Call somebody a pedophile and see how that works out. You might get hit with defamation or libel or slander. But yeah, don't take politics too seriously, okay? It is important, the policy, the future of the country, the future of your municipal area, the future of your state, the future of the country is in our hands. It's important that we vote, that we do our civic duty and vote. Of course, make this representative democracy work. But I think that all the fear has to go somewhere. All the hatred that bubbles up when a politician uses identity politics or says a bunch of really outlandish rhetoric, and if you're a President Trump fan, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody that gets riled up, all of the disciples of outrage culture, a modern religion, they get riled up, that has to go somewhere. It doesn't just dissipate. The catharsis comes from somewhere. And it's coming from going after other people, taking their guilt and their feelings, pointing to other people and saying, well, what could you have done about this? I tried my hardest. You just leaned into the shot. You leaned into the ball and got hit in the head. Because the politician I didn't want didn't get in. And it is tearing us apart. I was going to talk about how my mother, this is another little point about Trump derangement syndrome. So it's interesting now that we have this president that people think is evil or dumb or incompetent or traitor or treasonous. He's Putin's puppet, whatever it might be. Russia, whatever they might say. Well, this isn't my first go-round. This isn't my first rodeo with derangement syndrome, because in 1993, I was 9 years old, and my first association with the word Antichrist was Bill Clinton. Yeah, my mother, not so much my father, my mother would go around telling us kids that Revelation had come true. 666, the mark of the beast. And Bill Clinton was in the New Testament. He is the one that we need to watch for. 2,000 years, like this is leading up to the millennium. The year 2000, Y2K. And she was putting all this negative, demonic, satanic imagery associated with Bill Clinton in my head. She was my first association with Bill Clinton wasn't the saxophone or the dog or any of the... Was it the cat? Socks the cat? I don't remember. But it was this really harsh, negative stuff that is like ridiculous. It's irrational. It's emotional. This really vivid view of President Clinton as the Antichrist. And of course, when Bush went in, my parents were more Republican. When Bush went in, well, they didn't care so much. In fact, they were, remoralized. They were brought together. They weren't demoralized, they were remoralized. Brought together over 9/11. And so they supported getting, Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and so forth. So they were brought together by that. So I didn't really know Bush derangement syndrome, but oh, did I know Obama derangement syndrome. As a 2-time Obama voter, of course, hearing about Kenya. And, again, it's okay to critique President Obama on his merits and his flaws, what his decisions were, what happened, like blowing up Libya, bad idea. A couple other things he did, whatever you want to highlight, bad idea. Improving our relationship with Cuba, good idea. We have to bring everybody back to the table. And President Obama brought our economy back from the brink. So there's plenty to say about President Obama that's positive, but of course, with the Obama derangement syndrome, you had lots of people that were saying things that were just outlandish. That he was some kind of figure sent from hell itself to, to reap the souls of the wicked and the not so wicked, just American people. Socialist, they call him a socialist. Whatever it might be. There might have been some, again, I think that, capitalism and socialism are kind of a bit of a spectrum at times. You take those two sides, and there were things that President Obama did that were, capitalistic, socialistic. So you can say, well, he's a socialist on Tuesday and he's a capitalist on Wednesday, because that's kind of the way it was. When you're this neoliberal Democrat and you're dealing with the Republicans, you're dealing with America. We have a pretty set system with all the lobbyists and so on and so forth. But no, he wasn't the devil. He wasn't some Manchurian candidate. No, you can come up with your conspiracy theories. And again, I'm using this term lovingly. If you're a conspiracy analyst, look at a conspiracy theory about Obama and, look for the truth. Look at both sides, look at all sides, and look for things that have, look for the empirical evidence, look for the facts, look for the truth in these accusations, in these things. Is there any truth? I believe that President Obama was born in Hawaii. But, if any evidence, again, evidence, use your reason, use your rationality, not your rationalizing, your rationality. And if you get new evidence that says one thing or another, yeah, of course I'd update my viewpoint on it. But people were just losing their mind. The pendulum had swung, and it swings back and forth, and as it's swinging, anybody that isn't in power appears and acts more crazy. So the Republicans were acting crazy when Obama was president, and thus, well, you know what I'm going to say. Just what I'm going to say. So yeah, she was putting the image of Clinton as the devil in my head. Not Hitler, but close.